mission statement is simply put, educating students to shape their lives, their profession, and their society. This program today is a creative, out-of-class experience that will connect with what you learn in your classroom and connect it with the program here today. Specifically, the purpose of this program will focus on the UNILOA outcomes of communication. The Women's Center has been doing Her Story now. This will be our 7th year. We have, through the years, asked women in leadership positions within the university to share their personal and professional story. We try to keep these programs informal, so I want to encourage, if you brought your lunch, you're more than welcome to eat your lunch here today. Today we have Cassonga Pugh, who will be presenting. She is currently the Director of Student Services for the Kirkhoff College of Nursing. She has been with the university since 1983. She received both her bachelor's and her master's degree at Grand Valley State University. While she was here as a student, she founded the gospel choir called Voices at Grand Valley State University, and now as an administrator, she continues to be their advisor director. And they refer to her, I found, as Mama Cece. So, and I know a lot of times, a lot of our programs, we have used this choir, and it's a great addition to the campus. She'll share more of her story, but I know she's had some bumps in her life. She faced a major illness a couple of years ago, was able to overcome that. So please join me in welcoming Ms.
Thank you for being here. When Joanne asked me to do this, I was like, oh, okay, I think about it. You know, it's one thing to talk about Grand Valley. I can talk to you all day about Grand Valley. I can talk to you all day about the Voices, but to go in that private part of me that was a little bit different than just, you know, some of my students know something, but sharing that with colleagues and students I didn't know was a whole different twist. So I almost told her I wasn't going to do it, but I changed my mind and said, let me go ahead and do this. As she said, my name is Cassonga. I'm just going to take you throughout my life and talk a little bit about women who were in my life that were very influential, as well as you'll learn some things about me. I'm very, very, very sentimental. So normally when students buy me something or get me something, or even as far as I'll show you a little bit here on my table, what you will learn pretty soon is my mom died when I was 8 years old. And as I got older and started going through some of her things, these are some of the things that I found. Ironically enough, guys, I can see through her glasses. I can really see. And she smoked, and there were cigarettes in here, but I threw them away because they were making my drawer stink. And then I found her watch where she was, actually I found out later on that she was an RN. I didn't know that until later on in my life. So her watch to keep time for blood pressure. Okay, now I won't wear this, but those of you that know that this was a color back in the day, it don't look right on you right now. Plus it stinks too. And then I found some things that were hers. How many of you remember Woolco? Woolco charge card, can't use it, but. And then I found her Steckety's card, plus her Planned Parenthood, her Old Kent Bank, her member, Women's International Bowling Congress League. She bowled a lot. So I have all of her trophies as well. So that's a little bit about one of my things that I love to do. That is my mom. And as you can see, there are some pictures that I have that are just like her. Like I said, I was 8 years old when she passed away. I can remember the day just like it was yesterday. I remember going March 7th. The ironic thing is she was born August 7th, and she died March 7th, 1972. And I remember she was a teller at Oak Kent Bank, and then she was the manager of the bank as well. Well, guess what? Guess where I worked? Oak Kent Bank. But I remember these sucker shoes, so I always bring my brother and I, and they were those red cherry suckers with the Santa Claus on top of them. And I remember getting 2 of those that day before she left, and she always would kiss us before she would go to work. And I remember my uncle coming to pick us up at the bus stop, and it was kind of odd because my Uncle Dennis, he never really came to the bus stop. So I remember him coming, and then he didn't take us home. He took us to my grandmother, and that's when I learned that my mom had died in a car accident. A lady ran a red light and hit them broadside, and her head hit the rearview mirror, and basically started to cut everything. So if she had lived, she would have been a vegetable. And you toil with that, like, okay, but I still would have had my mom, but I really wouldn't have wanted her to live that way. So I live hearing about her and different people that come and tell me about her. And when I go and sing, that's one of the things that I love to do is sing, and my mom did too. So I would hear about the stories, and people that I did not know would come up, and my mom's nickname was May Girl. And they would say, you sound just like May Girl. So, there still was that connection that I've always had throughout my years. This is my dad and my mom, my stepmom, but she's my mom because she loves my dad. And they've been very instrumental in my life as well. Right now, it just seems like, as you live life and you grow older, you learn some things and how you deal with things. And sometimes I say, Lord, why me? Well, earlier this summer, we found out that my dad has stage 4 of colon cancer. And we've been dealing with that all summer long. But one thing that I love is that his faith and his trust in God, and he always keeps saying, I'm going to be okay. I'm going to be okay. Even when they keep saying that it's spreading, he keeps saying, I'm going to be okay. So it really helps me, but then that selfish part of me is like, okay, Lord, I still need my daddy. I am a daddy's girl. Don't take this parent too. But I know that God has everything in control, and so even though my flesh may be worried, my spirit is not. That's my grandma. That's my mom's mom. I tried to get the best picture that I could. My grandmother was like my mother. I mean, she was right there for me. My grandmother taught me a lot of things as far as being independent, learning to take care of yourself. You did not lay in the bed until 8 o'clock until 10 o'clock on Sunday or Saturday. On Saturdays, you were up cleaning the house, and once you got to a certain age and where you had to go and get a job, you needed to be up at 8 o'clock. 10 o'clock, they were done hiring, and if you did not get out of the house, she would make sure you got out of the house. And so grandmother taught me a lot of things about cooking and really just being a young lady of integrity and class and making sure, she used to always threaten me, and it worked. She used to always say, if I'm not good, then I'll never get a chance to see my mother. And she said, and then she would tell me that if I was not good or if I did something wrong, she was going to tell my mother. Now, anybody that gets to know me, I don't like scary movies. And when you tell me that, I saw my mom be a bear, you tell me she's going to come and get me, that's a whole different story. Okay? And share a little story with you that my grandmother, she always says, see, that's what you get for not going to church. I didn't want to go to Bible class with her one night, and I was about 16, 17, and like I said, I'm very scary. And she had, before she had her house remodeled, when it would get hot, her pipes would bump. Okay? So she went on to church, and in the Jason movie where the couch was kitty corner, and he came up behind the couch. Well, the pipe started bumping. I started looking over at the couch. I ran to the kitchen, got a butcher knife. I didn't know if Jason was coming or not, but I left her house open and ran around the corner to the ladies until one of the neighbors, until my grandmother got home. Got in trouble because I left the house wide open. And she said, next time you'll go to Bible study with me. And I went to Bible study with her. That was my dad's mom. We called her Big Mama. Big Mama also was no joke. Big Mama was Native American, black and white. And she just did not play. Before I even knew about Grand Valley or Allendale, we would go with her to pick apples and fruits and come out here to the farm. Well, she only had one glass, and she would bring all of my cousins with us. We would come, because my dad comes from a family of 12. And so we would come with her, and she would say, well, I only have one glass, so no breathing in the glass. You could drink the water, but you couldn't breathe in the glass. Everybody had to use this glass. So I'll tell you, because of that, now when I go places and, when they take communion, I don't sip on that glass. We would, we talk about it now when my cousins and I get together and we're trying to say, can you do it now? Can you do it now? And we go. Trying not to breathe in the glass. But both of my grandmothers were very great cooks. They were both women of integrity, and they basically taught us as young women that the sky is the limit. Even though both of them did not go to finish high school, they both pressed education. So did my dad, and so did my stepmom. So in either household, school was not an option. It was a must. Church was not an option. It was a must. Now you get a chance to see me. And because I get teased now, and Ashley's back there because she let it slip. Now everybody knows my long middle name. Cassonga Rose Magnolia Carter. I actually have two aunts named. From what was shared with me is that they were both arguing about whose middle name I was going to take because I am the first grandchild. And so rather than make one mad, I got them both. And this is where you can see my mom, and I don't know if you can see it, but my brother and I, and my dad and my brother and I. And this is the picture that I found a few years ago, and like I said, it's ironically, even though I work in the School of Nursing, I'm not a nurse, but then when I found this picture and I took it to my dad and I said, why is she dressed like this? And he said, well, your mom was an RN, and I was like, you never told me that. So, ironically, I keep following her footsteps, and I really didn't realize that I was. But as you can see in that picture, it looks, she's kind of like, okay, I don't want to take a picture, and I hate taking pictures. I really do. And, and I could feel what she's probably feeling there, too, as far as being sometimes the only one. And that was kind of hard for me. It still is hard for me sometimes, but looking at that picture, it just reminded me that even though sometimes we say that we have moved beyond, we still haven't. Now you get a chance to see me. Now, for those of you that know me, I do like to change my hair. And I've always tried, I started to do my own hair because my dad would only do 2 ponytails. I got tired of 2 ponytails. I have a permanent split because of those 2 ponytails. So I tried to learn how to do something different. So, back in the day, this was the style, believe it or not. And that was all my hair, trying to get all of that on top of there, and spraying and everything, and you couldn't tell me nothing. This is my brother and I, and we're very, very close. As you can see, this is an older picture of him and we're always playing around, but he's always occupied. I always tease my brother and call him Wile E. Coyote Super Genius. Growing up, I was the one that always wanted the whooping. Whoop me so I can go back outside with my friends. My brother, on the other hand, he didn't like whoopings, but he liked being shut up in the room because he would always fix things. When the electricity went out, you knew that it was fixed by the time his punishment was over because he would fix it. So we were like totally opposite. Well, my dad kind of caught on that I like whooping so I could go back outside, and he changed it. I got in trouble, and he set a chair in front of the window, and he made me watch everybody else go back. Needless to say, I didn't have any more punishments after that, and that was not fun. Okay, this little picture is where I will tell you that the strength of both my grandmothers and my father came. This is my prom picture. And everybody's probably saying, well, where's the guy? Well, to be really honest, I got stood up for prom. That's all right, he got 10 kids later, really. I was all excited to go with him and everything, and he wanted to know where were we going after prom. And I said, I don't know where you going, but I'm going home. And he never showed. He wanted to, at that time in my era, Motel 6 was really big, but I wasn't going. So he didn't show up. I was crying and everything, and my grandmother, the type of woman that she is, or that she was, she came in the room. I still had my dress. It's ugly now, but I guess it was cute. And she said to me, she said, are you finished crying? And she said, get over it. Here's my keys to the Green LeBaron. And I went to the prom. And I had a great time with my friends. I was the secretary of the student government, so I loved it. I had fun. I met Ray Charles because we had our prom at the Van Andel. So I remember my prom very well, even though he didn't show. I had a great time, but I burnt the dress. And that's my senior picture. And graduation, and yes, I did play basketball, and everybody always asked me about my nails. I had nails then too, and I played basketball. And this is my family. We just took this not too long ago, my blended family, and you have my brother and my nephew and my sister-in-law, my 3 stepsisters, my niece and nephew, and my dad and my mom, and me back there. And those are the aunties. And this is something that I like to do. I've been singing for a long time. When I first originally started singing, it really was my way of staying connected to my mom. Because that's all, she did a lot of singing. And when I would feel upset or I was going through some things, I would always go somewhere and I'd sing or I'd play the piano. And it just seemed to bring me, in a connection. Also, when I would sing, I would always end up falling asleep a lot of times when I was in my own little corner, in my own quiet place. And there was a dream that I used to have consistently, that if whatever was on my mind, that it was just really, I can remember the dream like it was yesterday. It would be at my grandmother's house. Both grandmothers would be there, and my family would be there. And in my grandmother's kitchen, a lot of things went on in my grandmother's kitchen. You cook, everybody's licking the bowls and everything like that. And my mom would be sitting at the table, and I would just pour out my heart to her. And it seemed like once I started talking about stuff that didn't matter, my time was up. And that's how I really stayed connected to my mom throughout the years and growing up. So singing originally started just as a connection, not something that I really liked to do or thought I was really good at. It was my way of staying connected to my mom. And I sang from high school in the mall to when I worked at Amway, and I was singing at every Christmas party for all the staff at Amway, from the workers in the warehouse to the administration. So I would always sing, and then I sang at a lot of sports events, and of course, my alma mater, Valley. And I used to sing in a professional gospel group called Creation, and that is us on stage. So I still kept singing, and all those people, we are still friends today. Now I'm going to share a little bit something too. There was one thing with growing up that I really had a hard time dealing with, and sometimes we deal with it now even in the professional world. For a while, I always had a problem with being dark-skinned. And part of that was that people always thought I was adopted. So when you look at my brother, when you look at my father, because I didn't have a mother, they all were lighter than I was, and everybody used to always say, okay, where'd you come from? And it really hurt for a while, I'd say for a long while, because I always felt like I didn't belong. And so it was really hard, and then all of a sudden my dad and I, we weren't getting along for a while, and I couldn't understand why. You know, typical kid stuff. I never smoked, I never drank, but I would tell you how I feel. Okay. And sometimes it was good, and sometimes it was bad, but I would. But my dad and I still just wasn't clicking for some reason. And so I ended up moving with my grandmother at 13. And so my dad and I were kind of separated for a while. And it really, 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 really hurt. And then to go out in the world and go to school and then apply for jobs and things like that, and have to still deal with the color of my skin, it was a constant reminder to me that I didn't belong and that I didn't have my mom. Because I always felt if my mom was here, everything would be okay, because then everybody would know I belong, because she was also dark and, and bring that connection. So I just didn't understand it, so I did rebel. I just would do things that I would do enough in school that wouldn't get me kicked out of school. And that was my way of rebelling. But I wouldn't get in too much trouble because everybody was still kind of feeling sorry for me because I didn't have my mother. But I knew what I was doing at that time because I was very, very angry. Then I met Bishop William C. Abney, and we had he was my pastor at that time, and we had a chance to talk. And I just shared how I really felt growing up and just really angry that my dad was not there for me. And after he heard my story and learned a little bit about me, because I didn't grow up in his church, he said to me, your dad is missing your mom. And everything, then it started clicking. I was a little older, and he said everything that I was starting to do was a constant reminder to my father as well of what he didn't have. Then it all started making sense. No wonder why he didn't show up to my music event. No wonder why he didn't do this. No wonder, because everything was a constant reminder of what he didn't have. The closer I got to Christ, the more I started to let that pain go. And it was, I won't say it was easy, because again, I still had to build that relationship back with my father, but it was different this time because I had to become the adult. And watching him hurt and hurt and hurt, because my dad was the one driving the car when they were in the accident, and my dad came out with a broken knee, a cut knee, and my mom died. So he really, and back then in those days, counseling was not in, especially not for the African American community. So we didn't do that. So he dealt with it the best way that he knew how. And that was just, going out, he went out, he partied, he did whatever, but so he could just kind of wash that pain away. As I grew older and we started talking, and he grew closer to Christ and I grew closer to Christ, we started talking. And then he met my stepmom, the picture that I showed you earlier. And he started to be able to open up about my mom. And we started to talk. And, you know, he actually went to the gravesite with me and things like that. And he started to really, really open up and actually say that he missed my mom. And he was able to say that in front of my stepmom. So it made it a little bit easier to accept why we were separated for so long. So we started doing a lot of things together, a lot more family things, and just really, you know, building that relationship up. So as time went on, you know, now we're like inseparable. If I don't call him, I'm in trouble, and I'm like almost 40-something years old, okay? But if I don't call, I do get a call from him, you know, where are you? Even when I'm at choir rehearsal with the students, and it's 11, maybe 12 o'clock, and this was even after I got married, he still wanted to know how come I wasn't at home. And this is a choir, my children, starting from when we started in a small group here in Kirkhoff of like 10, and we built up, and then we got bigger. And I never, sometimes I would always say I was going to quit doing the choir. It's been 22 years, actually. It's been 22 years, and I always said I was going to quit. And then after going through a traumatic experience a couple of years ago, when I almost lost my life and then lost 18 inches of my intestines, was in a coma, and was paralyzed on the left side, I was told not to try to have children. Now, for anybody that knows me, that is really and has been my heart's desire. And to be told that he would not recommend that just was devastating. But God always, when he closes the door, he always opens a window for me. And I started to look at the years that I've been with the Voices, and then being named Mama CC. I do have kids. I have a lot of kids. So I may not have birthed them, but I do have a lot of kids. So I thank God for that. And these are also some ladies, friends of mine, Alpha Kappa Alpha sorority, which I am a member of. And when I became a member, I was excited, but it also has a deeper meaning, because at least about 8 of those women knew my mom. And my stepmom is also in the sorority as well. We work with the community. So when I'm next to those women, it's another connection to my mom. So when I look back over my life, even though my mom was physically gone, the Lord always brought in people that would bring me some type of connection with my mom. This is one of the happiest days of my life. Some of you were there, and I know I worked poor Peggy to death back there at my wedding. Because I waited so long to get married, I didn't know who not to ask. So I had over 14 attendants. So as you can see, this is my whole wedding party, all the way down. And I even had a junior bride, that was my goddaughter, so I couldn't leave her out. And my godson's in it also. And my dad, he never really smiles unless he's cracking a joke. Otherwise, that's my dad's face. And these are 3 of my girlfriends. And again, just if you look at what I'm trying to present you, is that there's always, family is very close to me and very important to me, and so are my friends. Because this is my friend from growing up, and we sang together. Her nickname is Cricket, but it's Sharon. And then this is my girlfriend Bridget. We grew up together in church. And then Yolanda is my college friend. She also graduated from Grand Valley, and now she is working in the Grand Rapids area. So there's history all the way through, from my family to my friends. This is a picture that another important day is when my husband became a deacon. And for those of you that do know me, my favorite thing is shoes. And I love hats. I love church hats. So that was one of my favorite church hats. And this was one of the days that we were, my third time going into the hospital after suffering a bowel obstruction. And trying to laugh and, smile through it all. And after that, I was transported to U of M because they were going to remove my whole colon. And I really didn't want that to happen, so we got a second opinion, and that did not happen. And I'm still under U of M's care as we speak. My trips are getting further and further apart. I go at least every 2 to 3 months now. And for those of you that don't know what ulcerative colitis is, I'm borderline Crohn's. And never heard of the disease until then. Now you hear it every day on TV. But I had a real major flare where when it acts up, and I get really weak, can't keep anything down, and the type of person that I am, I keep trying to go and go and go, and I do take medicine for it, but then when it's ready, when it flares up, I really do have to sit down and be still. But thank God I haven't had any major flares since February of 2007. So I won't say I've been flare-free, but I've been a major flare-free for some time. And these are my doctors and my PT nurses. And I really, really thank them. And I actually went and spoke at one of their neurological science conferences about dealing with illness and overcoming illness and dealing with a chronic illness for the rest of your life. I now take at least 12 pills a day and then there's one pill that I will have to take for the rest of my life to keep my immune system intact. But they email me and we keep in contact on a consistent basis, just so that I can learn. And I've joined the Crohn's and Colitis Foundation to help manage my illness. Look for the slideshow. Something else I will tell you is that with everything that I've gone through and the things that I've learned, one thing that I try to do is give back like people who have given to me. Throughout my life, there's been mentors, not just my music mentors, but there's been people in my life that has given back to me and shared different things and helped me to make better decisions than I have in the past. And so that's what I try to do. And I'm a strong believer that students don't care how much you know. They want to know how much you care. And it doesn't matter how many acronyms you have behind your name. If you're not leaving some type of legacy, those acronyms just are a piece of paper. So that's really some of the things that, a little bit about me. And I do one thing that I try not to do, but I end up doing anyway. I am a giver by trade. I will give until I have nothing to give. Something that I'm learning, having made it there, is that sometimes you can give so much that sometimes you get drained, and then sometimes I may end up being sick. So now I'm learning to spread that out. But I brought some other things because, again, sometimes I can't buy shoes like I really want to buy them. So I get as close to it as I can and try to make some. So I have put some rhinestones on the back and purses and things like that. So, and sometimes I will buy shoes before I buy an outfit. My nickname at church is the Black Belt of Marcos. And the Sanctified District Mall shopper. Where there's a sale, you know I'm there. It seems like somebody always finds me there. Sue always finds me in the mall.
So how many pairs of shoes do you have? Or you're not
Oh, I'm not gonna tell.
build an addition onto the house?
I actually, I have 5 stepchildren, and now they're getting older, so you know that every other weekend thing that doesn't work for them anymore. So I sold the bunk beds out of their room. They can sleep in the guest room when they come. And I built a closet. My girlfriend was closing her business down, her boutique down, so I bought some of her racks and things. And that whole room is my shoe room. And I have shoes going over the door. I have shoes that they're situated by color. My boots are in one area. And then I saw something on, those home improvement shows are very good. So now I have things that I went and put things on the wall, so now my shoes hang on the wall. And now I started putting my shoes in the other room. And there are some underneath the bed and some downstairs. I don't know, I'm trying to stop, but I probably should go to shoes-holic. But I love shoes. I love different shoes. I love gym shoes as well. So I'll buy you guys some too. That's been my excuse when I first got married. My husband hadn't counted yet, so I used to be able to say, "Oh, honey, I had those before I met you." And then he started, when I got sick the first time, he really kind of busted me because I had shoes in the back of my truck, and I was just waiting to take them in. So he opened it up and saw them. So he started learning where my stash is. I've curtailed my shoes a little bit. I only buy like maybe 2 a month. I have given some away, but when you give it away, you have to replenish. That's a little bit about me. Any questions or?
Do we have questions? Since we have plenty of time to ask Cassonga some questions.
I was trying not to, because some people told me make sure I don't make them cry, so I was trying not to talk about certain things too long, so and I didn't want to cry.
I have a question. How did you end up at Grand Valley, other than close proximity?
I was a student here at Grand Valley. Grand Valley was not my first choice. I was on my way to Spelman. I had gotten accepted at Spelman from the community college. I was going to transfer. But remember when I told you guys that I have this problem about being darker? Well, at that time, Spelman asked for me to send a picture of me. And I think that was their way of, back then, when you would actually, when they were actually getting their students to go to school. And then, remember, this was back in the 80s. They wanted a picture of you. Well, I didn't send a picture because I really didn't know what to expect. I didn't know, because most of the TV and the things that I saw, most of the girls, remember, perception, were light. So I knew I wasn't going to be accepted. So they wanted, that was part of my, in order to be fully admitted, they needed the picture. And I wasn't sending it. So I didn't go. One of the ladies from my church introduced me to Don Williams. And the rest was history. I was here, and I just never left.
One of the things I forgot to mention too in the introductions is the 2 awards that I know you have received. And one of them is the Grand Rapids Giant Award in 2008, and also you received the Woman of the Year Award. Do you want to talk a little bit about
yes, I will. The Giants Awards really came as a shock. I didn't know I was nominated, and that was for a person that has given back to the community, has worked in the community and done things with young people and just making a difference within the community as well, more musically and just giving of themselves. When I got the call, I was in the mall.
Where's the team here?
And when Chris called me, she says, did you know that your name was submitted for the Ethical Humanities Award? And I was like, well, I heard about it, but no. She says, well, then I need you there. And I was like, what are you talking about? She says, well, you won. I was like, what? And I was like, okay, then who is this? Who is playing this game? And I mean, I was real. She's like, no, Cassonga, this is really Chris from GRCC. And I was like, well, how'd you get my number? I don't remember giving her my cell. Well, somebody else did. And I come to find out, and it was very touching that not only did my cousin, who lives in Raleigh, Durham, North Carolina, actually not was one of the ones that nominated me. So that was really touching when I really saw it, because I never knew that he felt that way at all.
Other questions that you have?
Can you talk a little bit about the different positions you've held here at Grand Valley?
Sure. When I first started at Grand Valley, I was an admissions counselor. And Joanne Litton was my, was Forrester at that time, was my first boss. And I worked there for maybe 5, 6, or maybe 8, close to 8. I don't know, I just been here. And then after that, I went and worked under Dean Seeger in the TRIO program for, as a counselor in the Ed Connections department. And so we're in the high schools and working with students that way. And then after that, now I'm in the School of Nursing, and I'm the director of the Office of Student Services. So that's where I am at this time. Learning more, even though I'm not a nurse, I'm learning a lot about the field. And again, I'm a strong believer that God always has a way of making things work. And I knew nothing about nursing, but after going through that ordeal, and being blessed to have nurses that were great, so we're Grand Valley nurses. This way now, I can come back and work with students, and if a student says to me that, well, what first thing that comes out of their mouth is talking about how much money they're going to make as a nurse because there's such a big demand, that's a turnoff for me, because we need nurses that have a passion for it and not just want it because of the money, because I don't like anybody working on me because of the money. And I don't think I would be here today if it weren't for my nurses. I thank God for my doctors, but my nurses were the ones that really kept me motivated in those days where I just really wanted to give up. When you wake up and someone tells you you may not be able to walk again, and to have nurses that really could feel your pain and wanted, when I said I will walk, my thing that I said to my husband, and not mess with my shoes. Because I will use them, and I did use them with the cane and everything. But now I have a different perspective on my job now as working in the school.
Are there other questions that you have?
Hey, Cece. You talk about your shoes and your love for hats. How many hats do you have? Can you share that with us?
I have collected now approximately almost 76. Because, like when most people, I'll just be honest, when my grandparents died, when both grandmothers died, most people, they wanted all that other kind of stuff. Well, both my grandmothers also went to church and they loved hats. And so while everybody else was trying to fight over that other stuff, y'all can go ahead and give me the hat. You know, I like sentimental stuff that I can keep forever for me, stuff like this. So I'm actually going to have my own prescription for the knee. So, but I like all kinds of hats.
Cassonga, can you talk about, with the loss of your mom and that time period, you know, not as much connection with your dad, the role that other women played and how that impacted your growth?
Yeah. Without having my mom, like I said, I was angry. I was really angry at the world. And there were just different people within my life, my aunts, and like I said, my grandmother. Then there were people in the community that I met that were just very loving, very caring, and just people that really knew my mom and just were always feeding positiveness in me. And I think that's what really helped me not to go astray, because, you know, you say it takes a village to raise a family. Well, they really were raising me, and I really didn't realize that at that time. Because in the circle that I hung out with, you couldn't be bad. Okay, you really couldn't, because somebody would know. Whatever happened, I'm going to point out Vita, she lived around the corner from where I grew up. Whatever happened on Thomas, you can bet that somebody knew and would call either my grandmother or my aunt and let them know. So I never knew who was watching, because back then, in those days, the phone call was, you know, the thing. I can remember going to the park over where I lived with my grandmother, and I actually snuck to go meet my boyfriend at that time, and his grandmother called my grandmother. Told her I was over at the park. And I used my cousin to take her, you know, strolling in the stroller to get over there. So I got busted. So, you know, so a lot of women like that really, you know, were instrumental. And at that time I was mad, but when I look back at some of the things that it saved me from, I'm really happy.
Can you talk a little bit about how you learned about alpha sorority and how it impacted your life?
Yes, I can. Growing up with my stepmom was very active in Alpha Kappa Alpha. And just watching her and other women that I knew that knew my mom, and just the impact that they were making in the community, from Margot Anderson, Ruth Lumpkins, and others in there. And I just really, like Cheryl Chambers, I'm really, really glad that I was mischievous, but I wasn't bad, because my stepmom actually worked in my high school. I went to Union High School. But because I was living with my grandmother, she never met my dad. So when I came home one weekend from Grand Valley, her name, it was Miss Coleman, was at my dad's. And so then Miss Chambers and everybody else that that were teachers of mine were always in my house. So I'm really glad that I wasn't, but then all of them were also Alpha Kappa Alpha women, and just watching the positiveness made me really want to, be a part of it. And things that they do in the community and working with young people.
Other questions? I have to go over here to get it. I want to thank you, Cassonga, on behalf of the Women's Commission and the Women's Center for presenting her story. I know it's not a hat, and it's not shoes,
But
and
it's
there's
green.
none in there.
It's
Yeah.
green.
Yeah, it's green. So, thank you very much. Just closing remarks. I just wanted to let you know that the Women's Center will have a fair trade holiday boutique the week of November 30th. The